Hello, guys. Welcome to Investing with JYK. And I should have done an OBS studio and set everything up, but for some reason, yesterday when I was setting this up, I got my head banged. I guess I was just using webcam. So here we go with webcam, even though I have prepared quite a few I would say web pages to share. And so there goes that. Hi there. We'll wait for another 4 minutes before we properly start. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions, you can ask me about it. Actually, in the meantime, I should start running down those links so I could post them in somewhere, I suppose. New text. Water Oasis. What is Water Oasis? I have no idea what that is. Is that like a theme park of something? Okay. I haven't been looking at individual stocks for a really long time because, startups are quite busy. Two minutes. And let's see. Okay, here we go with all the links. Hello, Dmitry. Got another minute or so before the scheduled start time. So wait until then. And we shall talk about stuffs. Well, I'm at the moment in Rhode Island, but I'll be back in China in 2 or 3 days' time. I just came here like 2 days ago. I didn't realize I'll be moving to China. Why are you moving to China? That's crazy. I wouldn't do it. That's all I can say. I just simply wouldn't do it. Okay, so I think it's time. Okay, we'll start. All right, first thing I want to talk about is real estate. China has had a huge real estate bubble, and well, it's bursting at the moment. So, firstly, China has injected a lot of money into the system by lowering reserve rates early this year, and then I think they even lowered the interest rate for mortgages a little bit this first quarter too. So that has caused a little bit of a bump in terms of the sales, and that has run its course. So it's run out of steam, and the reason, well, numbers that you can see, I'll post it in the chat. May's number is down about 14% compared to April's number, and April's number is actually worse than March's number. So the whole thing has just gone down a lot. And in terms of uh, what would they had? Okay, here's another one. These are the links that you can check out, and then obviously you probably need a translator for that, but that should be easy. So the numbers down, and the days on market for a particular for used homes or no secondhand homes are very long compared to the rest of the world. We have things that are. I was looking at something. It was like 10 month or something. Usually, I mean, when uh, in Bay Area where I had my house, it's about 30 to 100 days. 100 days being quite long. In China, the average is well, that's in Shanghai. The average is 10 months, right? So that's like 300 days, and it's increasing. So, and that's a link to reflect that. So the whole thing is going to crap. And what does that do to most people? Well, first of all, it's going to trigger the whole debt crisis. And according to Ray Dalio's playbook on debt crises that are denominated in sovereign currencies, you end up with what's similar to 1929, which is a deflation cycle. So you have a deflationary debt crisis. And that is actually happening in China too. CPI is going down since like late last year, and people are getting laid off. Lots of people getting laid off. Salaries are getting postponed. There are companies, not limited to companies, but also government jobs that have salaries in arrears. So one of my employees' wife's company just went bankrupt. His parents haven't received salary for like 3 or 4 months. His parents worked as teachers, so they're employed by the government. And another one had family ties in Inner Mongolia, and there uh, the tax collectors weren't paid for like you know month, like almost half a year. And then another of my uh, employee said that back home people were well, some of his acquaintances were told by the government to take out loans to pay themselves, and the government would promise to pay their loans um, interest and principal, which sounds just fucked up, but that's what's going on. Oh, hi, Sven. It is a good day to die. Okay, so that's the debt crisis. And if you look at a debt crisis of this scale, because China's debt to GDP is now at like 350, according to BIS, uh, it's going to take, on the good side, 10 years to recover. But I don't think we're on the good side because demographics are not in favor. Birth rate has been down steadily. Last year, China had the first population decline since, I don't know, war or like the famine in 1962. And so that's that. And this year's even worse. Number of new births is projected to go down from 10 million to like 8 million. So another 20% down in a course of a year. In 20th of May, which if you know Chinese, it's like Warling, which is like I love you or something. So it's traditionally it's like a good day to get married. So people usually get married on that particular day. And this year the numbers are down. I forgot something like 20 or 30%. I haven't checked the numbers, but from my memory, that when I read the news was like the number of new marriages are down by by that amount as well. So we're looking at just we're just looking at shrinking population before at the same time as a debt crisis happening, right? So that's that. And then the government. One thing I should make, I think most people don't know how the Chinese municipal debt is structured. Unlike in the U.S., where the municipal government is obviously the debtor, right? So in China, because the central government put a ban on local government's ability to raise debt on their own terms, so they started building these. They're called like city investment companies, and these companies are fully owned by the local government, and then they would raise debt using those vehicles. So on paper, these city investment companies have debt that have nothing to do with the local government, and they were able to raise massive amount of debt. So according to Goldman Sachs, the amount was to the tune of $60 trillion. No, sorry, it was $6 trillion. I'm mixing up the numbers, but just bear with me. It's like 60% of the Chinese GDP per annual GDP, right? So that's the amount. 60% of the GDP is through these vehicles, and now these things are blowing up because they are unable to pay their interest rate, not just the interest, not just the principal, just interest. So Kunming, which is a capital city of Yunnan, which is a south western border province of China, has recently just declared that they have no way of paying their share. So they started repurposing the social security funds to pay their city investment company's debt. Okay, and so that's one thing. And the other problem is, think about where these city investment companies are getting their money from. Who are the creditors? They'll be the local banks, because other than the local banks, the local government has no authority over anyone else, right? Everything else would be very much a market driven action. So if I were to buy bonds issued by a city investment company, then I obviously is expecting my principal and interest getting paid. And so whenever I see them having a reduced capacity to pay, I wouldn't buy their debt. But the local banks don't have that luxury. So this basically they're just moving money from the depositors into the government's hands and spending them. And well, if my projection is anything to go by, I think within a year, banks in these cities would have trouble paying their depositors. And on top of that, here is a link to a graph of Chinese reserve rates. It has gone down from 20% almost in 2014 to what is now 7.6%. Okay, and then imagine the amount of risk that has increased because of the reduction of reserve rates. The ability of the banks to withstand a bank run has gone down, I don't know, 3 times, right? So that's that. Okay, so banking is for sure going to get its day of reckoning. I think within the year. We already have some banks gone bankrupt, but those weren't due to the wrongdoings of local governments, more like just lack of supervision, lack of regulatory forces. But next year, I think these banks would start go bankrupt because of the local government's doings. Okay. Next thing is employment. So we can look at employment from two different angles. The high-paying jobs, the tech jobs. Obviously, we heard that Alibaba has cut some jobs and whatnot, and that obviously has an effect on local real estate market in Hangzhou, which is where I am. But that's actually not the big story. The youth unemployment rate in China, according to official numbers, is 20%, but that number is completely off. By off, I mean it's way too low. It's probably like 45. So why? Anyone in the that's still in school obviously isn't counted, but in China they were like there are some strict rules that you have to abide by in order to be counted as unemployed. It's very, very difficult to be unemployed officially in China, right? So I think one of the ridiculous rules is that if you kept on job searching for like more than 3 months, then you are no longer unemployed because like some shit reason. I don't know. But that was one of the criteria that would disqualify you from being unemployed, right? So there are a multitude of those. So the actual number is probably much higher, and the um, and what was I going to say? Okay, and because the reduction of birth rate is happening only like recently, drastically, has only happened recently, the number of graduates has steadily gone up. So we're at the point where the number of graduates has steadily gone up um, in recent years, in the past like 5 years. So every year, this year, there's going to be like 12 million new grads or something like that. These are university educated grads, right? So the government even has come out to say, okay, you guys need to. How do you translate that? Changshan is a traditional Chinese garment. It's called in English. It's called. Oh damn! It has no translation. It's just called Changshan. I'll paste it in the chat. It looks like that, and it's usually worn by scholars in China during its dynasty dynastic years, up until say 1949, where all the tradition got fucked. But the government has come out and say like you guys should take off your changshan and you know feed yourself through labor basically, and that tells you how bad this mismatch is, right? So people don't go to universities so that they can graduate and get a manual labor job, but that's apparently where they have to resort to now. And I've touched on that around me, there are people getting unemployed all over the place. And yeah, so that's employment. Next thing, technology. The biggest thing in technology recently is AI. And given the AI's tendency to not self censor, well, it has a tendency to not self censor. You can obviously make it to self censor. All the chat GPT stuff or any GPT stuff that has originated outside China obviously is going to be in big trouble. So we're not allowed to ferry data between OpenAI or BERT or whatever in and across the wall. So you either have to rely on the indigenously developed ones from Baidu or Alibaba, or you can just not ride this wave, which I think is quite. It's going to be very detrimental, and obviously, given that the models in China were trained using data that's available in China, then I'm sure there's going to be some harm to the quality of these models. Okay, and then we have some problems with foreign affairs in here because we're at war, or everybody's angry with us, from the US to Japan to Korea to obviously Taiwan, and now the Philippines, India, Australia, right? Even Russia. Russia is now very angry with China because China didn't support them thoroughly. Europeans are not happy with China either, so we managed to piss off everyone. Grats. Okay, and last thing before we do any kind of discussion is the parallels between now and Cultural Revolution. So the days leading up to the Cultural Revolution, I think obviously started in 1949, but I'm saying a more relevant date would be the famine. There were 3 years of famine. Note the number 3. And after the famine, Mao's authority was a little bit shaken. So what ensued was a wave of just heavier brainwashing. Basically, there is this worshipping thing started to manifest, and that continued until like 1966, and I think that's the beginning of the Cultural Revolution. And well, we didn't have 3 years of famine since 2000, beginning of 2020 and the end of 2022. We didn't exactly have that, but we had 3 years of lockdown. And by the end of the lockdown, people were pretty unhappy with the guy on top. So now we started getting stuff like just crazy indoctrination. I'll send you some links so you can check it out. The last one is the most ridiculous. Okay, so within that article, there was some guy, well, almost the second hand, the hand of the hand of the president, or some maybe like the number 3 of the CCP, started saying things like we should read Xi Jinping's books and make sure that these thoughts. Okay, those are the 3 stuff that backs me up. They enter your mind, enter your brain, enter your heart, and enter your soul. Okay, you better get them into your brain, into your heart, and into your soul. Okay, and there's like the link on JD.com. JD.com being the famous Chinese retailer. Well, we have about 500 SKUs of books written by Xi Jinping. So yeah, and they were all tomes and tomes. I always wonder, how does he get the time to write these stuff? It's insane. Like he has like I think he had about like 60 of them or something. 60 different books. Okay. And the next one is from people.cn. Well, people.cn is a Chinese government newspaper. We have a database of Xi Jinping's important uh, addresses. Yeah, they're categorized into different things. So that's that. And I don't know, in another 4 years, would we where we would be, but 1962 to 1966 is 4 years. So I don't know how far we are there. Okay. No, I'm not at Hangzhou at the moment. I'm currently at Rhode Island. Um, so I'm done with everything I want to talk about today. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, especially around things in China. And we'll wait until, I don't know, half past. If not, we'll end the live stream here. Prudent Shrimp. That is a very prudent name, I suppose. If houses and living costs are cheaper, birth rate should go up longer term. Not necessarily. If your income comes down faster than the prices are coming down, then you end up with 1929, right? So deleveraging is a very painful process, and China is in a forced deleveraging at the moment. Dominion cutting dividend really has little to do with anything. Greece's main problem at the moment is real estate because the main reason people want to buy a new air conditioner other than to replace their existing one is because they bought a new house. Right? So yeah, and Domingo has she has quite a personal debt, so I'm sure she wanted money out of Greece, and then the easiest way getting out of it, getting uh, money out of Greece is through dividends, because she owns quite a lot of it. Isn't housing and on top of that, I am still holding Greece. It's I have no way of moving my money out of China, so some of my money out of China, so that's one of the places. But on that topic, if you do have money stuck in China, buy things that are debt like, things that have little credit risk. One thing is Chinese sovereign debt. Obviously, they're not going to default on that. They'll just print money in the worst case. The other ones are, I used to like the airports, but because things are all fucked up, I was traveling through PBG, Pudong International Airport. The traffic is down like massively. I haven't checked the Beijing one, but the traffic is down massively in Shanghai. Jesus. The national flights they seem to do better. Um, Expressways are still doing okay. So I guess, and also electricity generators, especially the hydro ones, might do okay. So stuff that have uh, steady income. And this year, just another thing, like this year, I had some spare money in uh, Alipay, right? They let you buy these debt instruments, but whatever. I bought some of that, and then they paid like 3%, 3.5% annually, which is shit compared to the dollars five for 6 months. But whatever. So this year has gone. I think I bought them in in February or something. So by now they have given me like 1%. And then I looked at, so I outperformed the 92.66% of anyone with Alipay. And Alipay has, I don't know, maybe 60, 70% of market share. So I'm doing really well with those debts, uh, at least when you compare me with other people in China. Isn't houses for living rather than investing a good thing? Control the property market may be a good thing, but it feels like the prices go back rapidly because of too much. Right. So Tom, what you're missing here is when if you're living in a thing and that the price goes down, sure, you don't give a crap too much, but usually when property bubbles burst, people's income will come down, right? So because debts are getting written off, so people's assets are actually lower, and you get recessions. And what happens to people nowadays is, yes, they're living in the house that they bought, but they also got laid off. And because the house price has gone down by, I don't know, 40, 30%, they have lost their down payment. And by the time the banks foreclose their houses, they're still in debt to the banks, probably in tune of hundreds of thousands or millions of yuan. Okay, so and then they've already paid their mortgage for maybe 3 years or something, right? So basically, they lost all their money, all their down payment, all those 3 years of mortgage payment, and then they still owe the banks for a lot of money. And that's the problem. And in China, you don't have personal bankruptcy, so you're stuck with the debt. You now you no longer can take high-speed rail. You can't. There are some restrictions on what you can do, but that's that. Thanks for this. Aren't you afraid to share because of the government? Yes, I am. Obviously, but one has to like sometimes stand up to the fear. But yes, I am very afraid. Thoughts about audio split. Okay. Is it being done to please? Obviously, it's being done to please the CCP. Okay. So I've acquaintances inside Alibaba, and then what they being in Hangzhou, obviously. What they told me is it's quite chaotic at the moment inside. I don't know if that chaos is going to cause anything, but yeah, it's quite chaotic at the moment. But I guess it's to be expected. What can a state do to reverse this? There is no way the state can do to reverse the situation. You are in a debt crisis. You're fucked. There is no way. There are things you can do to not worsen it. For example, by not fucking with everyone. By everyone, I mean every other country, right? So that's that's one thing. But other things you can do, I guess, is to cultivate an atmosphere that is supportive of entrepreneurship or something. But there's nothing you can do. The debt always will come to find you in the end. There is no way out of it. Any thoughts on the new? Oh yeah, all these new EV companies, they're all fucked, man. These EV companies. Oh man, I really enjoyed this one. When they started, they were like, the whole thing started when they had I don't know, tens, at least teens of these EV companies. And well, looking at everywhere else, you don't need 15 different car companies, right? They are all freaking burning money. The people, the customer really loyal, but they are burning money, and they don't have any way of cutting down their costs. The way they maintain their loyalty, well, for example, Neo has unlimited battery swaps. Okay, and the battery swaps, the stations themselves are quite expensive, and the battery degradation is obviously going to be borne by the company. That's why they rent it instead of selling it. Um, and they also have a very high. They're basically copying what Tesla did without the actual cost benefits. Um, so Neo also promised a very high trade-in value for their vehicles. So I don't know what happened to all the old vehicles now, but very high trade-in values. So they're all burning cash, and then some of them has already gone bankrupt. This is Vimas, Vi wait, Weltmeister, yeah, World Master. It was a German name. I don't know why, but whatever. That one has gone bust. There are a couple of others that already have gone bust. Even the one with the best cost control, BYD, they have overproduced, and then there is a fiasco about the quota. There's something about layoff quotas in their Changsha plant or something. So because they have overproduced, they don't want the workers to make anything anymore, right? So the workers are like, okay, but we get paid by hour, which is basically by the numbers of cars that we produce. So you're not paying me enough. So I really want to leave this place because you're not paying me enough. But they also have this quota on this whole, yeah, number of layoffs, because when you do lay people off, you have to pay them a compensation in China. So there's all that. And the other funny thing is, um, I forgot the exact number, but in China, the EVs had, okay, so there are two numbers to track. One is number of license plates that were issued to the EVs. The other one is number of sales. And in China, for some reason, number of sales is, you count a sale whenever that's delivered to the dealership, not when that's actually sold to the customer. So these companies were all reporting these big sale numbers, but the number of license plates that's attached to these cars were much lower. So yeah, so now I think EVs in terms of inventory is something like 20% of Chinese cars, while EV only takes 3% of the market share in terms of actual sales or number of license plates. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. So I think within this year, there'll be a lot of more pain coming to EVs in China. A lot more pain. What are your thoughts on Chinese big tech? They'll they'll survive in China, but that's that. Nobody likes Chinese big tech outside China. You would think so, Tom. China is open to tourists, but the airports are still, especially the international section, they're still, I would say, a fifth of what they were. Because before, in China, these lanes in uh, Shanghai, like we were using, I don't know, something like 40 lanes for the automatic self validation thing, and another 40 lanes for the foreigners. And now we do like 3 lanes or 4 for the automatic one. I don't know how many for the foreigners. So that's what we're looking at. No personal bankruptcy. Exactly. You're stuck with your debt forever until you die. It's so fucked up, but that's that. That's what we have. It's crazy. BYD just seems doing great. Well, not so much. Does China have a social safety net in terms? No. Well, as I said, it's very hard to qualify as unemployed. Okay, so if you're, first of all, if you're a farmer instead of a resident, okay, in China you are categorized when you're born. You're categorized into either a farmer or a resident. If you're a farmer, you can never be unemployed. And the number of farmers in China, uh, let me check the numbers. Okay, 900 million out of 1.4 billion people are farmers. Okay, so these people can never be unemployed. You will never get unemployment benefits. And that's a sign when you're born. You get a chance to change that assignment if you I know there's some ways of changing it, but very few people end up changing it. Well, there are a lot of things that are more unfair in China. You're categorized as a farmer, and yeah, and if you're a farmer, your retirement pay is $14 per month. Okay, but if you're a resident, you're like, I don't know, something like a 10x that, maybe a little bit more, something like that. $14 per month. Great. Happy New Year. Yeah. And even if you're a resident, as I said, if you are more than, I think it was some ridiculous hoops you have to jump through in order to get unemployment benefit. I have never seen a single person in my life, that people that I've known, that have claimed unemployment benefit successfully. Never. Okay. And oh, by the way, if you're a farmer, you also don't have the same health care insurance. You have a shittier version of that. That's going to bankrupt sooner. So that's that's China for you. Um, at the moment, my startup isn't impacted too much, but the day will come. That's why we launched the overseas product. So yeah, if you don't want to be categorized as a farmer, then don't be born here. Okay, anything else? If not, I think that shall be it for today. Thank you all for watching. Good morning slash evening slash night.